California has the worst quality of life in the entire United States. That's according to a new study by the U.S. News and World Report, which looked at voter participation, air quality, and pollution, among other factors.
So what does this say about liberal states in general, especially when 4 of the top 5 states in the study have Republican governors? Here to discuss is Hollywood conservative and co-host of the Blunt Force Truth podcast, Mr. Chuck Woolery. Chuck, good to see you.
It's nice to see you all this morning. How are you?
I like it. Oh, you grew the facial hair. It looks good.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, it comes and goes.
Okay,
so the whole thing with California, see, I think it's about air quality. They're constantly talking about air quality as you know, being a good place to live and whether it's safe to live there and all that kind of stuff. It's really not about air quality, although they want to say that. It's about everything. I'll give you an example. I had a house out there for a few years in Beverly Hills. I paid $3.2 million for it. Okay, I went back about a few months ago. That same house is on the market today for $8 million.
Wow.
I mean, it's insane what's going on out there. Yeah, really, I should have kept it. You're right. Well, the point is that everything is just, once Democrats get a hold of, and I'm going to do this, I know this sounds hyperbolic, but I don't mean it to be. Once the left, progressive left, gets a hold of a state, this is kind of what happens to it. They start taxing their way to prosperity, and it always ends up in desperation. And people, you know, they get rid of the middle class. And I always find that interesting. Politicians are always saying, we're doing all this to help the middle class, and the middle class is going to be saving on taxes and everything else. And they basically just tax the middle class out of existence. And then you got this ultra-rich people who live there, and then very poor people who live there. And, of course, you get the illegal immigration all mixed into that, and it becomes very toxic.
Now, Chuck, as a surfer that spends time in California surfing, I have a hard time picking on it, but you bring up a good point, because we just had the Oakland mayor, Libby Schaaf, who basically tweeted a heads up to illegal immigrants that ICE was coming, and now we learned from ICE that more than 800 of them had criminal records. You know, why is it a state that has so much to offer, particularly to surfers, doing these crazy things?
Well, it's very odd, because the left has a tendency for some reason, and I'm not so sure the right does this, but the left had a tendency to say, if I don't agree with a law, I'm just not going to follow it. And now you're finding mayors and governors who are doing this. And my point is, I think that if a mayor breaks the law, with this illegal immigration with ICE and everything else, or if the governor breaks the law, then they should be held accountable like anybody else. And the problem is that we never do that. So it'll be interesting to see if the DOJ steps in, does their job, and says, okay, you're breaking the law, you continue to do this, we're going to put you in jail. And of course, this woman said she was very willing to go to jail, and that would be all right with her. So I think they should accommodate her.
For a state, for a state like California, is there a tipping point? Is there a point at which the tax and spend, the society they built, is untenable, and it sort of falls under its own weight?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I moved to Texas and bought a house, I bought a brand new house on the lake here right outside of Austin. My taxes that I saved by being in Texas pay for my house completely. So, and by the way, I didn't know that when I got here. That's not the reason I moved, but I found out later that I literally was saving that much in taxes. So you can liberals have a tendency to tax themselves right out of existence. They've held on to this state for about 40, 45 years, and that was about as long as I was there. And so I watched the demise come down, and it's a shame, because California is such a fabulous place. I mean, the weather, the ocean, the mountains, the skiing, the desert, there's just so much there. It's so rich. And I have 2 children that live there and work there, and you know, I hope they're okay.
And now you're in Austin, so Chuck, keep Austin weird, as the logo goes.
I'm just outside of weird.